Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gann, alongside my partner, Jack McNicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. Another chance, go check out our website, justsayingfootball.com. Follow us on Instagram at JustSayingNoGWJS for article and video updates. Don't forget us in your ear on Spotify at Just Saying Football. 4 weeks are up and 4 weeks are down, and this weekend was a tough one for the injuries, my friend. You were no stranger to that as a Giants fan. Malik Neighbors goes down. MetLife takes another one, another victim, another year. God, it's just brutal. It's time for them to change it up. Tyreek Hill has torn ligaments in his knee. He's going to be missing the rest of the season. Lamar Jackson, hamstring injury, will be missing the next few weeks. It's something to monitor as the Ravens are 1-3. Braylon Allen, MCL sprain for the Jets. Brian O'Neill, MCL sprain for the Vikings. Juwan Jennings has an ankle and shoulder injury. Ricky Pearsall has a knee injury. Joe Alt has an ankle injury. And these are just some of the big names that are out there. And we have the official start of bye weeks, which includes the Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you're a Bijan Robinson owner, like we both are in different fantasy leagues, hopefully you have a running back to put in for him.
Yeah, you got the Steelers, the Packers, the Bears, the Falcons. This is gonna be the first week everyone's gonna be hitting the waiver wire like crazy, and plus all these injuries. I mean, it's like almost a double-decker, and if you're looking at the waiver wire right now, you know this is really not the week that you got to be searching, but, I mean, we got a big week ahead of us. We got another London game, so let's get it kicked off with our Thursday game, Shanti, right?
Heck yeah, because we got a nice one with the NFC West showdown when the San Francisco 49ers make their way to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Rams favored this by -6.5, and over-under here of 47.5. Now, Brock Purdy in his return last week against the Jags, 2 interceptions. Was not what they were hoping for. Puka Nacua, though, on a tear to start this season. On a tear.
Dude, literally like record breaking. He's I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he literally the pace he's on, he's up for 2,000. He's got to break both the records if he stays on this pace. He's leading the league in both catches and in receiving yards. I mean, that is just impressive stuff from him. You're looking at this game. The Niners are banged up. Brock Purdy looked like he was injured last week when he was playing, and they obviously lost that one. But it's going to be a tough one here. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think Jared Verse gets a sack in this one. I think they're playing at home, short week. The Niners, if they had a little more time to recover, I'd feel good about them. But the Rams are rolling right now, so I'm going to keep them rolling.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. I think this Rams team is looking like one of the best teams in the NFC. I think there's an argument, despite the loss to the Eagles, that they are even a better team than the Eagles just from what they're able to do both in passing and running. Obviously, the Eagles still dominating. They don't need to make any passing yards in the second half to win games, which is an impressive feat in and of itself. But I'm taking the Rams in this one. 49ers are beat up right now. They're going on the road, short week, not what you want to have. Moving into Sunday, like you mentioned, London games, and you know who's still out there? My Minnesota Vikings. Oh, yeah, we are still out across the pond. I know Ireland's not across the pond, but I mean just across the side of the ocean. Minnesota Vikings taking on the Cleveland Browns. Vikings favored this by -3.5 with an over-under here of 38.5. Now, obviously, I got to start my Sunday with a heartbreak. Is that going to be the same thing again for me, my friend?
I don't know, man. You got a good defense in front of you, but this is really a good showing by Carson Wentz. He really almost brought that team back last week in a kind of looking like a no-win situation. We were looking at the live lines. I saw them at like 55-1. They almost came back. They brought it all the way back. The Vikings, they are a good team right now. Jordan Addison playing out of his mind last week. He's going to be the X factor for me in this one. I think Minnesota takes that 3.5, and I'm going to stay away from the over/under on this one because I know Dylan Gabriel is starting for the Browns.
Yep, Dylan Gabriel is getting a start, which, makes me feel like I should be excited, but for some reason the Vikings never play well against rookie quarterbacks or first-time starters. I'm going with the Browns in this one. We don't have any Donovan Jackson. There isn't going to be any Ryan Kelly in this one. Brian O'Neill is injured. That's 3 starting offensive linemen. Our entire offensive line has not played a single snap together yet healthy to start this season, okay? So that's not what you want to hear when you're going up against a guy named Myles Garrett. And this Browns defense has been legit. There's a reason why this is a 38.5, and that's because they know these two defenses are just going to be slugging it out at one another, and which team is going to make a mistake, and I'm worried it's going to be Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings fumbling that ball. I'm locking in the Browns on this one. I think it's a defensive game, and it's going to show up. Moving into our 1 o'clock games, AFC Showdown, Las Vegas Raiders making their way to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Colts are favored this by -6.5 with an over-under here of 47.5. Now the Raiders, Genty, 3-touchdown game. You're looking at you're getting all the score stats coming in. You're like, oh my God, Raiders, you're going to win this game. Then they miss a field goal and they lose in the most Raiders fashion. Any hope for them against a very good Colts team?
Yeah, Colts right now, top 5 in scoring, 29 points a game. The Raiders, I don't know if they're going to have the defense to defend this. The Colts defense has been playing really good, and Geno Smith, 7 interceptions in 4 games, so something to monitor there. But you said it, Genty. I'm taking the Colts in this, but I got to give Genty his credit. He's back to his old college stance of standing up, and he had 138 and 3 on the ground last week. He's going to go off, but Jonathan Taylor still leading the league, 414 yards to the game, so big running back battle here.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of running backs, Tyler Warren getting a rushing touchdown last week. We love that from the rookie tight end. Not something I was expecting to see at all, but, Indianapolis Colts are playing pretty well. I'm locking them in for this one. Like you mentioned, Geno Smith, 7 interceptions, already has 2-3 interception games on the season. We are only 4 games in. That's not the stat line that you want to be hearing right now. This Raiders team, once again, looks like the same old Raiders, despite all of the new hype, the new coaching hires, and even some new ownership. Obviously, things are a process, but I'm not liking them this week. I'm locking in the Colts. Moving this along, we have the New York Giants making their way to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Saints frame this one by -2.5 with an over-under here of 40.5. Now, obviously, Jackson Dart gets his first win during his first start for the Giants. But, of course, it's the Giants, and like all New York sports team recently, you can't have the good without the bad. Jackson Dart wins, Malik Neighbors injured for the year.
Yeah, and I wanted Jackson to originally start this game, but I will not complain after a win like that last week. Defense steps up. Dexter gets the interception. Really for a rookie QB, he's got a couple of things to develop in his game, but he's really looking like poised out there and confident. Easy matchup here against the Saints, in my opinion. I know New Orleans is a tough place to play, but not against this team for me. But, man, like you said, it's just been a heck of a week when you look at it like that because, you get a franchise wide receiver, you get rid of the old franchise quarterback, you get your new wide receiver, a new quarterback finally, and the game that they play together first. But they'll have a bright future together. It just sucks they get one less year together like this.
Yeah, it's not exactly what you want to see, obviously, especially when Neighbors' second year was set to break some records that Odell had set in terms of pacing for receptions and those kinds of things. I'm locking in the Giants in this one. I think the Saints team, if there was ever a game to not have Malik Neighbors in to start, like how that has to start, it's this Saints game. It's going to give them a chance to really figure out who's going to be this wide receiver one, who's going to step up, what's going to be the Giants' new identity now that you don't have this true wide receiver one. I also think that this defense is going to be electric. We saw Sexy Dexy with an interception, rumbling and tumbling almost for a touchdown. I really do think that it's going to make the Saints uncomfortable. Spencer Rattler has been bad. 5 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. If I'm a Saints fan, I'm not upset with the team, despite being winless. This is much better than what I think everybody was anticipating. I was expecting a lot more turnovers, a lot more ugly ball. It's been overall pretty good, and I wouldn't be surprised if both these teams make a trade by the end of the week. I think Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson gets a call from Cincinnati or somebody. I think they're going to get shipped. And Alvin Kamara, I'm saying it again, get this man on a team and get compensation while you can. All right, moving this along. Dallas Cowboys making their way to New York to take on the Jets. Cowboys are favored this by -3 with an over-under here of 47.5. Now, I'm going to lock in the Cowboys now, and I think Breece Hall said it best. He said, other teams shoot themselves in the foot, we shoot ourselves in the head. And that describes the Jets, and I sadly think it's going to slip into 0-5 territory.
Yeah, it could very well. Sorry, Jets fans. I mean, the Cowboys last week after that tie, 40-point tie. Oh, my God. They must be exhausted. It'll definitely be a closer game than you think, but, George Pickens looking phenomenal. Dak is leading the league in passing yards with over 1,100 right now, and you got to look at it like that where, Javonte Williams is a nice, pleasant surprise for all of us right now. So, against the Jets, they know how to play in MetLife. We just got to hope nothing happens like it did last week. I got to take the Cowboys.
No more injuries, MetLife. I would love to see this get into grass territory. All right, moving this along, arguably one of the best games of the entire weekend. We have the Denver Broncos making their way to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. Eagles are favoring this one by -3.5 with an over-under here of 43.5. As just mentioned before, Eagles only 8 passing yards in the second half. Still won the game against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, man, you want to talk about guys who need to get traded? You're talking about Alvin Kamara. We got to get AJ Brown out of there. We were talking to our buddy. I was talking to our buddy Trusty literally the other day, and he said, "What are they going to do? Just have Devonta Smith and just like run all the time?" And I was like, "That's exactly what they're doing now with this guy." So like another guy, 28 years old, franchise wide receiver. I think that he could. Even this game, you got Pat Surtain on him. There's no way I feel like he has a breakout game this week. If he does, great. But he's been terrible the first 4 weeks. The Eagles, they're just getting by with these games. They're not as dominant as they were last year, but still a good team. So I'm going to take them at home. But Denver, man, you got to give them credit where it's due. Bo Nix looked phenomenal on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm going with Denver. I think great defensive matchup here. I feel like Denver's just so consistent defensively, and we're seeing this offense for Denver starting to come together a little bit more. J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey's becoming a great 1-2 combo, looking really comfortable back there. Bo Nix turnover has just already dropped since the first 2 weeks. He already looks way more comfortable in the pocket. I think it was just, start of the season jitters. I think that there's been a few games where the Eagles have gotten by and gotten lucky. Don't think this is going to be the week for them. I'm going to lock in the Broncos on this one. I think it's going to be defense, and I think that the Broncos know how to finish games defensively. Moving this along, Miami Dolphins making their way to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Miami's favoring this one by -1.5 with an over-under here of 45.5. Now, obviously, the Dolphins got the first win of the season last week, but they go down without Tyreek Hill. I got to go with the Panthers on this one, man. I think this is a trap game for the Dolphins. They have not played well. They played the Jets yesterday, and like I mentioned a little bit ago, Brees Hall said it best. They shot themselves in the head. They did. The Jets lost that game. The Dolphins didn't win that game, per se.
Yeah, you know who won that game for no reason was Darren Waller. 2 touchdowns, first touchdown. Unbelievable. If you have a Darren Waller first touchdown ticket, congrats. You've won a guest appearance on our show because that is unbelievable. But I got to say, I'm with you, Sean. I think Miami's a bunch of fakers. They are favored by -1.5 against the Panthers, and you're looking at that. Carolina as a dog, definitely a great play this week. Definitely a sneaky play.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's one of those surprise games that we're going to see. All right, keeping this moving right along with the Houston Texans making their way to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Houston favored this one -2.5, over under here of 40.5. Texans got their first one of the season, not something we were all expecting to say in week 4. Ravens, tons of injuries. Marlon Humphrey, Roquan Smith, Lamar Jackson. Is there hope for them to win this game?
Yeah, man, it's going to be really tough without Lamar. I could see Derrick Henry absolutely just going off in this game because Houston does have a good defense, but their offense, in the lack of support I feel like they've been getting, it's been tough. I think this is, the Texans, you have to look at them against the Ravens right now. The Ravens' defense is great, and C.J. Stroud has really been struggling. They haven't been able to put up a lot of points. They're barely putting up over 10 points a game, and you're looking at this where, the Ravens are at home. They still have the weapons in place. Cooper Rush, he's won a couple of these kind of backup games before in the NFL. I could see Baltimore here. It could really be a dog's weekend. I'm really looking at it like this. But, you still have Zay Flowers. You still have all these other guys. You have a great O-line. The Texans, if they match up badly with this Baltimore defensive line, it's going to be big trouble.
Yeah, I got to go opposite of you. I do think that there's a way here for this Ravens defense to overcome the injury. And obviously you do have Derrick Henry, and you can give that guy the ball 40 times and still win the game. But I think that this Texans defense is going to be so good, and it's going to really rattle Cooper Rush. And because now you eliminate the entire improv of Lamar Jackson that you have to game plan against now that you're up against Cooper Rush, I think it's going to make Daniel Hunter have a day. It's going to help Will Anderson have a day. Derek Stingley is going to be locking down D-Hop or Zay Flowers. I think it's going to be really, really tough for this Ravens team to get going. It might be under that 40.5 for sure, but I don't think it's going to be a very pretty game that we're going to be turning into being like, for fantasy reasons, unless you're like a Derrick Henry owner, and then that's probably about it. And maybe Nico Collins.
There's one of those that you see at the end of like the red zone, which like the halftime, and all the games are at halftime at the same time for like those couple of seconds, and you're like, oh my god, that's the score of that game. Like you said, that's I can picture this weekend. It could be like a nasty score. I could see a safety. It's like, I'm not going to call it, but it's crazy. Like, weird scores, definitely weird scores. A lot of field goals in this one.
A lot of field goals. It is not going to be pretty. All right, moving this right along, we have the Tennessee Titans making their way to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Arizona's favored in this by -8.5, with an over-under here of 41.5. I'm locking in the Cardinals. Similar to the Saints, the Titans are just in that position where it's like you're probably not going to win any of these games this year. And it's not because your rookie quarterback is bad. Your whole team is bad. You can't run the ball. You can't pass the ball. Your receivers aren't catching it. Your defense looks good, and then by like the second half, they just can't hold on because the offense isn't moving. You're going up against a pretty solid Arizona Cardinals team. They're not necessarily amazing, but they should be able to win this game. I'm liking the Cardinals in this one. Let's see some more Marvin Harrison Jr. Good game last week. Let's keep building on that.
Yeah, the 8.5 spread here is a scary indicator, for Tennessee, because it's almost like they're like, a touchdown, no, probably a little bit more, because the Titans, they can't get nothing done. Cam Ward, 17 sacks, leading the league right now. That's the only category that our number one pick is leading the league in right now, and that is never a good sign. We got to talk about guys getting traded. Let's trade some offensive linemen to the Titans, save this guy. But Kyler Murray, man, Kyler Murray's got me a little bit worried. Got to start him in fantasy this week, and I think this is a favorable matchup for him to start getting stuff right as well. We've been kind of seeing him struggling. 2 interceptions in the first half last week. He's got to clean that stuff up if he wants to be great.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. All right, moving this right along, Tampa Bay Buccaneers making their way to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seahawks famous by -3 with an over-under here of 44.5. Now, I mentioned this last week, and I just want to say it again. The biggest drawback for the Bucs team is going to be injuries, and now you got potentially Bucky Irving might be missing a few weeks. This is not what you wanted to see from this team. I'm locking in the Seahawks right now. I think Tariq Woolen, his name's been popping up on the trade rumors, so keep that in mind. They're getting Devin Witherspoon back. Tariq Woolen hasn't played the best. Maybe it's time for a change of scenery. He is a Pro Bowl cornerback that carries some value with that. But I think the Seahawks right now, they're playing lights out defensively. You have a really solid ground attack in the 1-2. And then I like that. And sadly, Jackson Smith-Njigba is wide receiver 1. Not sadly, just it's awesome.
Yeah. And it's just crazy how he got that. I know what you mean by sadly. I mean, we got a lot of, crazy. One side you got Njigba moving up because he, had his guys get traded. Lockett, left. And then you have Tampa Bay where they have no available receivers due to injury. I'm going to take the Bucs here. I honestly think the Bucs are playing kind of like a top 5, top 7 team for me right now. The Seattle Seahawks though, they're definitely like a top 10 team. I got to say I would have been fighting for this to be our game of the week too. Just in general, you're looking at this. This could be an amazing game. I'm looking at 44.5. I think both teams are capable of covering that. One big thing I'm looking at here is Baker. This year he's 28% on his throws on third down. Those are always going to be big plays, and he's down from 45 last year. So they're waiting for Evans and Godwin to get back. They got Ibuka there, but they got to get Kate Otten involved. They got to use their running game if they really want to beat Seattle in Seattle. It's a tough one.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. All right, moving this right along, we have the Detroit Lions making their way to Cincinnati, taking on the Bengals. Lions favored this by -10 with an over-under here at 49.5. I'll take that 10, and I'll take the money line of the Lions. The stat that came out was Bengals have allowed 76 points the last 2 weeks to their 13. Obviously, you want to see this offense get going, but that offensive line is atrocious, and that defense is not any better. Trade Trey Hendrickson while you can.
Yeah, they got to move him. They got to do it for him and themselves. They got nothing really going for him this year. Detroit -10. Never want to see one of these teams do anything on the road. You can't feel like Cincinnati can. Like I was just saying with Seahawks, they're able to defend at home. When it comes to the Detroit Lions, they're on the road here completely as double-digit favorites. Unless the Bengals make some kind of a move within the next day or two where they could maybe get another guy in there instead of Jake Browning. But and I love Sam Laporta in this matchup. I think the Bengals are giving up way too many yards to tight ends, and we've been wanting him to have a big breakout game.
Yeah. Who's that, Joshua? You got Jameis on the line? Yeah, I'll take him. Just saying, Cincinnati, he's out there. You got 2 quarterbacks on the Giants roster, and neither one of them are named Jackson Dart that you can call and probably take. So call him up. Cincinnati, a change of pace, a change of scenery like that for your team might be good. Moving this right along, Washington Commanders making their way to LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers are favoring this one -3 with an over-under here of 48.5. I am absolutely locking in the Commanders on this one. Joe Alt was injured. He's seen in a walking boot.
Dogs this weekend.
All the dogs in this one. I don't like that injury. I don't like what we saw from the Chargers last week. I think it's something to really get worried about. The Commanders getting Jaden Daniels back. The defense looks pretty solid for the most part. I think that they weren't playing as well without him. They didn't have their leader. I'm locking in the Commanders, though. I really do think this Chargers team is in a little bit of worry. You're out Rashawn Slater, and now you're going to be out Joe Alt. That's bad news.
Yeah, and you've been talking about how that's declining. Khalil Mack being out. I thought he'd be a big favorite last week. Washington, they've been playing just great with or without Jaden Daniels. I think they're just a really good team who's just been nagging with injuries. The Chargers, I feel like Justin Herbert's got to be a little fired up, and the Commanders, they're traveling out there. I think he's got to be a little fired up. So I'm going to take the Chargers this weekend at home, just because they gotta be a little bit mad about what happened in MetLife. So it's a good time. The Chargers, they got Lad McConkey, they got Keenan Allen, and they got Quentin Johnson, who is fantasy wide receiver 4. People, this is real. This is a real thing. He's the 4th highest scoring guy, quota way through the season. I think this is going to be explosive, over 48.5, easy for me.
I think there's a reason why he was a first rounder, and people sometimes forget that. You're not always a bust. 30 years of the year. Yeah, it's 30 years of the year, and he's in year 3. If you don't have it by year 3, So this is exactly what you want to see. Exactly what I want to see for your charts. All right, moving this in. Sunday Night Football, AFC East showdown. New England Patriots making their way to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills are favoring this one by -8.5. Over under here of 50.5. I feel like it's probably Bills' rest of season to win.
Just picking him every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard not to. Josh Allen's playing like an MVP. I mean, look, they didn't play great against the Saints, but they didn't necessarily play horribly. This is against the Patriots. They had many years where they lost to the Patriots. They are not losing at home anymore in the Josh Allen era against a New England team that only beat up on the Panthers.
Yeah, Allen is 8-6 all time against the Pats. So I'm like 8.5 kind of seems like a trap because we said 6.5 a couple weeks ago for them against the Jets. They beat them like 31-3. Then last week they have the largest favorite since 1975, and they don't even cover that. Like you said, it was a dangerous one from the start. So I like the Patriots at 8.5. It's kind of a sneaky, but I will take the Bills overall in this one. James Cook, man, every week he's just scoring. He's getting 100 yards. And then Josh Allen still gets to be the MVP. Drake May, he's playing good, but, I want to see a little bit more now that we get to see him in prime time. How is he going to step up in a division game? This is probably so far one of the bigger games we've had to see from Drake May in, the short period we've had him in the last 2 years. So I'm really actually pretty excited for Sunday Night Football this week.
I think it'll be a surprisingly good one. Maybe not for fantasy, but for football, absolutely. All right. Monday Night Football, Kansas City Chiefs making their way to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Kansas City's favored this by -3.5, over under here of 46.5. I'm shocked the Chiefs won last week. Part of that was because of the injury to Lamar Jackson. But the biggest surprise this year has to be for the Jaguars, which is Brian Thomas Jr. has been MIA. The leading receiver in both receptions and yards is tight end Brenton Strange for the Jaguars. It's not what you want out of this offense right now. Not when you have Brian Thomas Jr. on that roster.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you're looking at this Jacksonville team, and, Travis Hunter last week, just in the Travis Hunter tracker, 58% of offensive snaps, 38% of defensive snaps. They're slowly trying to get him to that, 50-50 ratio. But now we're done talking about Travis Hunter because we were in the pros, man. And we got guys like Xavier Worthy coming back last week, dominating. You got Kareem Hunt getting ready to have – I feel like this is – classic Kareem Hunt game is, the Monday night against a weaker team. He just goes off. So maybe a little Kareem Hunt tutty out there. The Chiefs, they're right now in a good spot. Like we've been talking about, a lot of teams can win as dogs this week, but a lot of teams are also in good spots against good matchups when they need to be with these losing records. So, Kansas City, they win this game. We're talking big about them, kind of getting back into it. And with the Chargers losing last week, Denver's getting up there. This AFC West race is going to get hot. But Jacksonville beating San Francisco last week. They got to be feeling pretty hot.
look, they have to, especially you face one Super Bowl ready team. Now you have to play another Super Bowl ready team. If the Chiefs are able to get to 4-2 or 3-3, then you get Rashee Rice. I mean, I think we're right back into the dynasties continuing all the panics that they were maybe having the first 3 weeks.
It was a nice break from the Chiefs dynasty talk the last 4 weeks.
It was nice for a change of pace, but they're back on top for a reason. But let's see what those Broncos can do. I'm not going to just discount them yet. I'm locking the Chiefs on this one. That's all the time that we have, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Week 5, first week of bye week. So get the fantasy lineups correct.
Yeah, check your waiver wires. It's going to be crazy. You got to have this stuff going forward, getting ready every week. Make sure your teammates don't get those guys like the precious running backs that will be on the waiver wire this week. Make sure to check us out, Just Saying Football, on YouTube, on Spotify. Get us in your ears. Make sure to check out all of our plays on Discord, and make sure to check out our Instagram for all of our updates. Just Saying No GWJS. Thank you guys for checking us out.
Enjoy.